Bet you're here to see Jody. Yeah, she told me she quit.
No, I just feel like I don't want to let them down.
Well, quitting is letting them down. Trust me, you went through an entire layout with a sprained ankle and a sprained foot. Trust me, you are their hero.
Okay, okay, I think I can do it.
You're my hero.
I found paragraphs of her book sprinkled throughout your essay.
Oh no.
You panicked, and the solution was to plagiarize? It's okay, I'm not going to tell the dean. You had no idea the pressure that you're under. I'm here for you anytime you need to talk.
Thank you.
Samantha, you live in a big house, and you go to the best schools. You have beautiful things. What else do you need from him?
His time.
I'm in charge of his schedule. I think I can do a better job of arranging time for you both together.
Thank you! I think he's been cheating. I found a receipt. Not a hotel, but it was for jewelry.
Your husband told me to come pick up his planner. Can I grab it?
That's a really nice bracelet.
Thanks.
So, where'd you get it from?
My husband obviously bought you that. So how long you been fucking for?
I'm a lesbian.
Really?
I've had a crush on you this whole time.
This final segment of the film brings the emotional and thematic threads of the entire story into sharp relief by staging a confrontation that begins in suspicion and ends in revelation. And when read through a queer, emotionally grounded lens, the encounter between Jessie and Mercedes becomes less about scandal and more about the quiet, radical power of truth finally spoken in a world that has repeatedly misread women's relationships. The scene opens with Jessie already destabilized, caught in the exhausting limbo of intuition without proof, a state many women recognize intimately when something feels wrong, but the available narratives insist on patience, doubt, and self-correction. Her husband's evasiveness, the mismatched luggage tags, the expensive jewelry receipt, all function not just as clues of infidelity, but as symbols of a deeper emotional absence, a sense that Jessie is no longer the primary witness to her own marriage, and the film wisely centers her interiority rather than sensationalizing betrayal. When Mercedes enters the space, she does so not as an interloper but as a professional presence, yet the imbalance of power is immediately complicated by class, wealth, and gendered expectation, because Jessie's suspicion is shaped by a cultural script that assumes women orbit men competitively, that any closeness between a man and another woman must be erotic, transactional, or deceptive. Jessie's initial warmth toward Mercedes curdles into accusation with frightening speed, and this pivot is painful to watch precisely because it reflects how women are often encouraged to turn their anger sideways, directing it at each other, rather than at the structures or partners that have betrayed them. Mercedes' defensiveness, her insistence on transparency, her willingness to hand over her phone, all read as survival strategies developed in a world where women's credibility is perpetually on trial, where being believed requires proof, performance, and self-exposure. The text messages, rather than serving as salacious evidence, instead reveal a pattern of refusal and boundary setting on Mercedes' part, quietly reframing her not as a rival but as another woman navigating unwanted attention from the same man. And this shift is crucial because it exposes the shared vulnerability beneath the apparent opposition. When Mercedes finally names herself as a lesbian, the revelation lands not as a plot twist but as a rupture in Jessie's assumptions, collapsing the heterosexual logic that has governed her interpretation of events and forcing her to confront how limited that logic has been. This moment resonates deeply with queer audiences, who are all too familiar with the experience of being invisible until disclosure becomes unavoidable, of having their lives misread because straightness is treated as default and anything else as deviation requiring explanation. Jessie's reaction, shock followed by curiosity rather than rejection, marks an important emotional turning point, suggesting not instant enlightenment but the beginning of a reframing, a recognition that the story she has been telling herself may not account for the full complexity of the women around her. Mercedes' confession that she has harbored a crush on Jessie the entire time is delivered without spectacle, and its emotional weight comes not from transgression but from tenderness, from the courage it takes to name desire in a context that has offered no safety for it. This confession reframes the entire interaction retroactively, inviting viewers to reconsider earlier moments through a queer lens, the careful professionalism, the boundary setting, the admiration Jessie had not known how to read. For queer women watching, This recognition can feel achingly familiar, recalling the countless times attraction has had to remain unspoken because the cost of speaking felt too high, because one's role, as assistant, colleague, friend, offered proximity but not permission. Jessie's response, her moment of stillness before moving closer, is significant not because of physical action, but because it represents a choice to step outside the narrative that has confined her, to see Mercedes not as a threat or a mystery, but as a woman who has been telling the truth all along in a language Jessie did not yet understand. Society's discomfort with seeing women express love for each other is woven throughout this scene in subtle ways, most notably in how long it takes for the possibility of queer desire to even enter the frame, and in how quickly Jessie's initial suspicion defaults to heterosexual betrayal rather than considering alternative explanations. That discomfort persists because women's desire for each other destabilizes deeply ingrained hierarchies, threatening the assumption that men are the central axis of women's emotional lives, and that women exist primarily in relation to them. By allowing this scene to unfold through dialogue, misunderstanding, and eventual clarity rather than through eroticized shorthand, the film resists reducing queer revelation to spectacle, and instead situates it within the messy reality of adult lives shaped by marriage, work, and social expectation. Symbolically, Jessie represents the woman who has followed the script, who has built a life within accepted boundaries only to discover that those boundaries have not protected her from loneliness or deception, while Mercedes represents the woman who has lived adjacent to those scripts, visible yet unseen, honest yet misread, and their interaction becomes a meditation on how truth can emerge not from certainty, but from rupture. The power of the scene lies in its refusal to frame Jessie as foolish or Mercedes as predatory. Instead, it positions both women as navigating a system that has encouraged silence, misdirection, and competition. And it is only when that system cracks that genuine connection becomes possible. For lesbian and broader LGBTQ+ audiences, the moment speaks to the longing to be recognized without having to justify one's existence, to the hope that honesty might be met not with fear but with openness, and to the reality that such moments often arise unexpectedly, in the aftermath of pain rather than in idealized circumstances. For women more broadly, the scene resonates as an exploration of how easily trust can be eroded by secrecy, how often women are asked to doubt themselves rather than their partners, and how transformative it can be to redirect anger toward understanding rather than blame. Taken within the context of the entire film, this final encounter completes a larger arc about visibility and voice, showing how women across generations and roles, students, professionals, daughters, wives, are all negotiating the same fundamental questions. Who am I allowed to want? Who am I allowed to be? And what happens when I finally tell the truth? This is not a story about taboo or transgression, but about the relief that comes when reality is spoken aloud, when women stop performing the roles assigned to them and begin responding to each other as whole people. In centering emotional honesty over spectacle, and in allowing queer desire to emerge as a natural extension of connection rather than a disruptive force, the film offers something rare and necessary, a vision of women finding each other not through fantasy, but through recognition, and discovering that being seen, truly seen, is not the end of their lives as they knew them, but the beginning of something more authentic.